Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so why aren't Ripple's partners using XRP globally at the moment to settle transactions? Okay, many people see Ripple's partnerships with major financial institutions, big players, banks, and the entities that actually control the monetary system. And people wonder, okay, if Ripple has all these partners and the technology is so superior and advanced for what it was designed to do, then why isn't XRP already being used everywhere with these financial institutions and big banks? And it's a fair question, but it's important to understand, like any large-scale financial innovation, adoption actually follows a sequence. And that's what I'm about to explain here. So first of all, Ripple's approach actually has been very strategic and deliberate and very disciplined if you pay attention to not what they're saying, but their moves. And that's critical. So their first priority, the first stage was building the architecture, okay? The infrastructure known as the rails. And this was the first priority they had before introducing XRP into global financial systems, into the traditional banking system. So again, Ripple's priority was to build the infrastructure and the rails capable of settling institutional value globally, instantly, efficiently, and really at scale. That was the priority, and that's what they built. They built the XRP ledger, okay? And the XRPL or XRP ledger was not built and designed for retail and speculation, although they allow that to enhance liquidity on the network. It was actually designed specifically as a superior solution engineered to handle the movement of trillions of dollars in value globally, securely, okay, cost effectively, okay, at scale. It has to be able to scale up more value, and it has to be fast, so speed, and efficient, okay? It has to align with the green agenda. Let's be real here. Now, remember, you can't invite global institutions and central banks to transact on something that hasn't already proven to operate flawlessly, okay? You have to understand that. So that's where Ripple began. They start with building the infrastructure, the rails, the architecture, okay, which is where the value lies in the protocol. And then, of course, they launched the XRPL in 2012. And obviously, they've been working on it way before then. They just decided to launch it in 2012. The second element to their strategy was establishing trust, and this was the strategic integration part, okay? So after building the architecture came the integration and building trust with the right entities and financial institutions that control and oversee monetary policy, like central banks and other big players, banks, payment firms, and other financial networks, okay? The idea here about building these partnerships weren't about forcing the immediate XRP usage. That wasn't their goal here, okay? Their goal was integrating and building trust. They were basically focused on embedding Ripple's technology, the XRPL, and embedding Ripple into the existing financial plumbing. This was their goal. So remember, you can't introduce a new financial standard and a new technology, a disruptive one, overnight. It starts with embedding it into existing systems. This provides reliability, okay? And essentially planting the seed for what comes next in the world as all forms of value become tokenized across global markets. So they had to plant the seed. That was the integration and building trust. Remember, in global finance, credibility always precedes innovation. So this was the key for them on the second part of their plan. Institutions need to see reliability, okay? They need to see compliance. They need to see that adopting this technology, something so new, that it has the ability to do what it was designed to do. And that's where the confidence from these central planners comes in, okay? And institutions need to trust that the XRPL, this technology, will essentially be capable of doing what it was designed to do. So this phase of integration and trust and laying the groundwork was the priority after building the infrastructure, okay? Establishing trust, providing performance, and basically preparing the ecosystem for the eventual token-based settlement, okay? Now, which is exactly what's taking place now as we speak, and it has been in the works for quite a while now. And you have to remember, large-scale financial innovations that are extremely disruptive to the monetary system don't happen overnight. They happen in stages. It's a process. They roll it out gradually as the economy transitions, okay? The third stage of their plan was to see XRP adoption, okay? And have institutional demand come into the equation naturally. So the next phase will emerge naturally as tokenization expands across global markets. Now, this is extremely critical, and I'll explain why. This is inevitable, and we're currently in the infancy stages of tokenization of pretty much everything, okay? This is the transition we're about to see soon. We're essentially entering an area where virtually every form of value, from currencies, securities, commodities, and even real-world assets, will exist on-chain and be tokenized, okay? We're talking about quadrillions in value, okay? Moving essentially through digital systems on the blockchain. This is so important to understand because this comes later. Basically, value across the globe is being tokenized, okay? That's what's actually taking place, and we're seeing the early stages of it happen, the infancy stages. At that scale, only a handful of blockchains will actually have the performance, the trust, the liquidity, and the capability due to their superior solutions to actually serve as settlement rails in the new financial system. So by default, when all value becomes tokenized and we go digital, full digital economy, there will only be a handful of solutions and rails that can handle all that value and have all the criteria the big players are looking for. And this is what will happen once the market matures. And when it's ready, the digital asset XRP and the XRP ledger, which is their network, will already be positioned as one of those options. It's been tested, integrated, and intentionally, institutionally recognized, okay? And that is the last stage of the entire strategy and the plan. So, it's not that XRP isn't being used because it failed to gain traction, okay? First of all, it is being used, just not with every Ripple partner out there. But the reason it's not globally being used to settle trillions in value and settle transactions is because Ripple understands how large systems evolve, okay? And that's in stages. It takes time for that to happen, okay? First, you build the architecture, the rails here, the infrastructure needed to settle trillions in value. Then the second stage is they build the trust, okay? And then the third stage, obviously, when value fully moves on chain and all forms of value becomes tokenized, that's when widespread adoption actually will follow and institutional demand will increase because this is inevitable. That's the end game. Now, I just want to say, if you want an extreme informational advantage, consider joining my new weekly newsletter. I just launched it and I'm really excited. It's going to consist of all the contrarian insights that challenge mainstream narratives and everything you need regarding macro, crypto, gold, digital assets, and really how the new financial system is evolving. Additionally, if you're looking for a secure, straightforward crypto platform so that you can buy, sell, trade crypto, or even just roll over your 401k into specific digital assets with tax advantages, then check out I Trust Capital. I actually put the link in the description. It's, in my opinion, one of the best exchanges out there, and I use I Trust Capital along with a few other ones. But I Trust Capital is a really good exchange, and I highly recommend you take a look at them. Their platform is very user-friendly. They have institutional grade security, which is important. Over 80 plus digital assets and different cryptocurrencies, and they're continuing to add more. And they actually have no monthly fees, just a flat 1% transaction fee. So I put the link in the description. Check it out if you're interested. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. So I hope this all makes sense, and I will continue to do maybe a few more whiteboard videos like this in the not too distant future. Have a wonderful day.